Hi, my name is Alan Loader. I would like to tell you about a project I've been working on for the past several years that I think will be helpful for you in your study of the Greek New Testament. During my PhD studies in New Testament at Wycliffe College, University of Toronto, I did a course on epigraphy with Dr. Bradley McLean as it relates to the New Testament. Also, one of my areas of study was New Testament textual criticism. So I became quite familiar with the Greek papyri and inscriptions. After I left Wycliffe, I moved back to the east coast of Canada, where I'm from, where I now work in a community college. Back in 2012, I felt I needed a way to keep up with my Koine Greek, so I decided to do a revision, update, expansion of this book, The Vocabulary of the Greek Testament by James Moulton and George Milligan, two British scholars. This is a work they started just before World War I, along with a German scholar named Gustav Deismann. Their goal was to produce a new lexicon. The plan was for Moulton and Milligan to focus on the papyri, and Deismann would focus on the inscriptions. But when World War I broke out in 1914, the project was put on hold. Of course, during the war, Moulton and Milligan had no contact with Deismann. They continued to work on the project, but then Moulton died in 1917. Milligan went on to publish the work they had done to date and later added a few updates of his own. The last edition was published in 1930, but the work was never finished. Milligan died in 1934, and then their work sat on a shelf, mostly unused and unappreciated, for the next 8 decades. Fortunately, there's been some renewed interest in this valuable resource in recent years, and now you can buy a reprint of this book, but it is essentially the same as the 1930 edition, with the exception of an index added at the back produced by Dr. Dan Wallace and some of his students. As you read Moulton and Milligan's book, it soon becomes obvious that they presupposed their readers would have a high level of understanding of the Greek language. And if you've used this book, you know how easy it is to get bogged down with trying to make sense of it all. So what started as a way for me to keep up with my Koine Greek studies has now evolved into me finishing what Moulton, Milligan, and Deismann had started all those years ago. That is, to produce a lexicon illustrating how New Testament words were used in the broader Greco-Roman world. So this new edition I call Vocabulary of the Greek New Testament Student Edition, or VGNTS for short. This major update revision of Moulton and Milligan's book is designed to make this valuable resource more accessible to a wider English-speaking audience. Hopefully, the enhancements in VGNTS will help bridge the gap for those whose knowledge of Greek is somewhat less than what Moulton and Milligan had anticipated. What I would like to do here is show you some of the enhancements I've made. So I picked out a few examples. Here I've selected one lexical entry as an example to give you an idea of how it works. Here we have a scan of Moulton and Milligan's entry for the noun georgos. Notice it doesn't give you a whole lot of information. It tells you to also check the verb form, and there are a few comments and a list of some of the sources where the word appears, but not much else. So let me show you what I've done with this. First of all, each lexical entry in VGNTS is keyed to Strong's numbers. This makes it easier to find the word. Actually, Strong's numbers are added for Greek and Hebrew words throughout the text to allow for ease of access and for someone who may need some help with the biblical languages. Also, the Strong's numbers allow for hyperlinking to the Greek text when this resource is used inside of a Bible software program. For each lexical entry, we have the Greek word. Notice this is followed by a page number. This is the page number where the entry appears in Moulton and Milligan's book, in case you want to cross-reference it. This is followed by a transliteration and an English gloss. Notice also I've added some Greek text. When you go back to the scan of the page from the print edition, you see that Moulton and Milligan list some ancient sources where this word is found, but they don't provide the text. So what I've done to help you is I've located the source and included the text here in VGNTS. Also, along with the Greek text, I've provided an English translation. That way you can see how the word functions in the sentence in terms of the meaning and context, and also the syntax. Notice that I've bolded the word in Greek and the corresponding word in English. There are over 20,000 such inline translations in VGNTS. Along with the Greek text and English translation, I also provided the date and, where possible, the place where this source was found. This is good for understanding the word in its geographical and historical context. Sometimes Moulton and Milligan includes this, but not always. Next, I've given several catalog identifiers. If you've worked with epigraphy or papyri, you know that one of the really challenging things, and I would even say frustrating things, is trying to find a particular source, because often the same text gets listed under several catalog identifiers. So what I've done here is provided several identifiers to help you locate these sources. Next, there are hyperlinks throughout the text that work within a Bible software program. When you mouse over a hyperlink of a word, the lexical entry appears in a pop-up window, and if you click on it, it will take you there. I've also included a glossary of terms in VGNTS. Currently, there are 404 Greek and Latin terms with definitions. So when you encounter a word that you may not be familiar with, you can mouse over the footnote symbol and the definition will pop up. These include things like official titles, weights and measures, currency, etc. Next, I've added additional information. Say, for example, you're doing a study on the account of Jesus turning water into wine in the Gospel of John. You want to do a word study on Canaan. So you go to Moulton and Milligan's book, and what you discover there is that they only list the word and direct you to another resource. In this example, they tell you to check out Burkitt's Syriac forms. Now, this would not be very helpful to you if you did not have access to Burkitt's book. And occasionally, Moulton and Milligan will direct you to a source that is either out of print, no longer available, or very hard to find, and I would know. So what I've done is I've located these resources and included it in VGNTS. And sometimes these sources are in Latin, German, French, Italian, etc. So to help the English reader, I've provided translations for these. Next, I've added some additional sources. For most of these, it would be papyri and inscriptions that were discovered since 1930. Sometimes it's a source that shows a different form of a word. For example, Moulton and Milligan may have a verb or noun form, and I've added something that gives you a participle form. In other cases, an additional source will provide information that has come to light since 1930. For example, in their entry under Methodia, they point out that Grimm Thayer, in their lexicon, state that this word is not found in profane authors, that is, outside of biblical and ecclesiastical writings. But they say that it's found in late papyri and in the sense of method. And notice that they list some papyri. For example, Pioxy 8, 1134, Pioxy 1, 136, and there are a few others. When you go to Bayer's lexicon, BDAG, the editors tell us in their preface that they used Moulton and Milligan's book as a resource when they created their lexicon. So we go to their entry under Methodia and find that they copied what Moulton and Milligan said. They even cite the same sources. They also say that it's only found in late papyri and in the sense of method. But during my research for VGNTS, I came across an inscription from the Roman imperial period from Miletus that has the word Methodia, and there it is in the sense of scheming. The context clearly shows that scheming is meant. Now, in all fairness to Moulton and Milligan and Bayer, this inscription was not discovered until 1936 and wasn't published until 1976. So this is an example of a source that has come to light more recently. And these are the kinds of things you will find in VGNTS. So far, there are over 1,500 additional sources in VGNTS. Currently, VGNTS is available in electronic format only. I've created a module for the Word Bible software. By the way, this is an excellent tool for studying the Bible. This is my go-to Bible program, and I use it all the time. Also, I'm currently working with the folks at Accordance, and we should have a module coming out for Accordance within the next year. I've not yet looked into publishing this in hard copy, and this is on purpose as it's an ongoing project. As I continue to make enhancements, I'm able to provide regular updates that can be downloaded by users of these software programs. I plan to have it published in book form eventually, but this may be a while. There are 937 new lexical entries added to VGNTS, not in Moulton and Milligan. My name is Alan Loader. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me. My email address is alan.loader@gmail.com. Oh yes, one other thing. I would like to thank Dr. Plummer and the folks at Daily Dose of Greek for giving me the privilege to share this with you. And thanks for watching.